Good morning. Well, we're dealing now with chapter 40 of the book of the prophet Isaiah. We're seeing how he's going to proclaim on behalf of God a great message. First of all, let's read it and see what he says, at least the first couple of verses. Comfort, he says, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and proclaim to her that her hard service has been completed, that her sin has been paid for, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. God is looking forward in time and speaking through his prophet, telling the people what is going to happen. He is going to be proclaiming to them that in fact he's going to bless them. And he says quite simply, comfort. Now, comfort is not the same word as coddle. Comfort means something else. He's not just going to embrace them and say, oh, there, everything's going to be fine. What he's going to do, he's going to give them strength. He's going to encourage them to go forward. He's going to encourage them to become the people he wants them to be. And as he does this, he says, when these things happen, and I comfort you in this way, I want you to know for a fact that then you will not have to worry about your sins, because you will receive double for all your sins. Double for all your sins? What does this mean? Let me try to explain it to you. In every society, you get businessmen. Some are successful, some fail. It's a very sad thing when businesses fail in this way. But when a business failed in Judah at this time, when a person had literally become bankrupt, he was required to write all of his debts on a piece of paper and nail it to the door of his house. The people he owed money to would come and they would check the piece of paper. Now, they might insist on taking him to the courts. They might insist on forcing him to release the money by some other means, even to the point, perhaps, of being sold into slavery. But at this moment of time, what they had to admit was the fact that he admitted his debts. The piece of paper was there, their name was on it, and what they were owed, that was written on it quite clearly. It was regarded, of course, as a great disgrace. The man had gone bankrupt. Now, on certain occasions, a wealthy person might be walking past. And walking past, he would see this piece of paper. Now, he had been told and he'd been taught and he understood that works of charity carried a great blessing from God. So he'd go up and he would just read the piece of paper and read the debts. And if he was in a mind to do it, he would quite simply fold the piece of paper in half, nail it back to the door, and write his name on the outside. He had doubled the debt. He had folded it in half and written his name on it. He had doubled the debt. He, this wealthy merchant, would now be responsible for all the debts that were written on this sheet that this man had to pin to his door. It was very important that the man had put down all his debts, because if a debt was not written down, then the merchant would not be responsible for it. But the people who were owed money could now go to him and claim from him the money that was owed. Now God is saying to his own people that they have received double for all their sins. In other words, God himself has doubled the sin, pinned it to the door of the house. Through the death of Jesus, the sin was going to be cancelled. They were going to receive all the blessings that they needed. Comfort, he says. Be strong. Comfort my people. Speak to Jerusalem and say to her, speak to Jerusalem that her sin has been paid for, that she has received in the Lord's hand double for all her sins. And then he goes on in this same chapter. He starts talking about something which is going to be happening in the future as well, near to the time of this Messiah coming, who will pay for all these debts. A voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. See, When John the Baptist started his ministry, just before Jesus' ministry was initiated, people went to him and they said, "Are you the Messiah?" He said, "No, I'm not." They said to him, "Then who are you? Tell us who you are." And John the Baptist went right back into Isaiah and he said, "I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord." See, John the Baptist saw this as a prophecy about his own ministry, just as Jesus was going to find out from Isaiah and see his mandate as well for his ministry when he said to the people of Nazareth, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me." You know, because these, John the Baptist and Jesus, took from the book of the prophet Isaiah the prophecies that he'd seen and in their own lives worked it out in the ministry that God had in fact given them. And as he goes on in this particular chapter, he brings this assurance all the time. And we'll carry on and look at this tomorrow.